Hello, and welcome to this month's ID update. This is a particularly exciting episode because we have no news, but we do have a bunch of we have like 11 submitted questions. So thank you for the questions. We're going to be diving into those shortly. But as exciting as your questions are, they are not the most exciting thing. The most exciting thing is we have our new intro sequence.
We do.
So, without further ado, I'm going to play that and we're going to be right back. Here is, this is probably building up a bit too much now, isn't it?
No,
15
not at all.
seconds of templated video. So there we go. That sets the tone somewhat, maybe, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah. It's like Tina Fey and Jimmy Fallon.
Well, now we've set ourselves up for a massive fall. That's we can dive in. Heidi, how has your July been?
It has been hectic and very, very warm. How about you?
Yeah, not too bad. I don't think. Busy. I guess it's been kind of warm and or freezing cold and pouring with rain. So that's fine.
Okay.
Today we've gone the gambit. It was really warm most of the day, and now it is starting to rain. So there we are. But so what about the world of L&D this month? What have you seen? What's been going on? What's caught your eye?
Not a whole lot. It seems like everything is still. It seems like there's a bit of a pendulum swing in the AI conversations. It seems like it's not so much all good anymore. It seems like we're swinging back a little bit the other way, and there's quite a lot more skeptics showing up on my newsfeed, which tells me that people are interacting with the skeptical content a lot more. But it seems like also I'm hearing less about layoffs and I'm seeing more people get jobs. So what I'm feeling a little bit more confident about is like the trend of the economy. Like people are starting to go, okay, like we don't need to get rid of all of our teams and replace them all with AI. We can just do business as usual. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, kind of a lot of the same, I guess. I think one of the things I've really noticed, like acquisitions seem to be on the rise again, which I guess could be seen either way. There's clearly some money in the EdTech space that could be good, could be bad, depends on the source of the money. Like we've seen a couple of platforms merge. We've seen some kind of consulting content-y companies like Mind Tools, I think, has bought Kineo, which kind of didn't surprise me. I know Mind Tools is doing really well, but Kineo's like a big name, like a big old, been around for a long time kind of L&D company. Which is, I sort of found very, very interesting. What else have we seen this month? Not much. Like most of the AI stuff this month has kind of been very either just more drivel or has been quite interesting stuff in the kind of coding and development side of that.
Sure.
That seems to be a lot of where the kind of tech development is right now, which is fun. I found your point on jobs quite interesting though, because we've got like what I consider a disproportionate amount of the questions we were sent about finding jobs in L&D, which always kind of surprises me, but I guess it's a point of interest. So shall we dive into the questions? And
let's do it.
So again, thank you everyone who submitted a question. These came from LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Substack, Discord, and one by email. Thank you, that person. It wasn't quite a letter in the post, but it was very close and it made me smile. So, first question, and this is an interesting one. What will instructional designers be doing in 5 years' time? Heidi, why don't you kick us off on that one?
Well, I think they will be complaining about not having a seat at the table and also complaining about storyline. Now, I'm being facetious, but really it's all to say, I don't think there's going to be a lot of massive difference in how we operate in 5 years. Why do I think that? Because there's not a lot of difference between how we operated 5 years ago, right? 5 years into the past when everything was going to be VR. Remember, there was.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, I think microlearning was like 5 years ago. Maybe 5 years before that was VR. But we kind of we're still having the same conversations. We're still doing the same thing. And I think when it comes to like what will instructional designers, like I'm talking like people that actually are instructional designers. Because I think one of the big problems in our industry is we've got like a good number of people cosplaying as instructional designers who don't really have the full skill spectrum, right? Like they've learned how to use a tool from a boot camp and can create content, but there's like, they don't have needs analysis, communication with SMEs, the different kinds of what's the word I'm looking at? Like the foundational skills, right? And I think that the people that have those foundational skills will largely be doing what they have been doing, what they've always been doing 5 years from now. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one because the thing that struck me about this is like what drove this question. Because I would agree with you that I don't perceive there to have been in the last 10 years is what I can definitely speak to. I don't perceive there's actually having been much change in what an instructional designer should be doing. Now, I do think there has been a shift in what instructional designers are doing, because I think the problem we've got is that instructional designer has become a bit of a catch-all term for kind of someone who does L&D stuff, whether it's, whether it is actually instructional design or whether it's delivering face-to-face sessions, or whether it's some kind of leadership position, or whether it's actually just a developer's role. Say not just because it's less than, but just because it's a subset of a skill, blah, blah, blah. I think that's where maybe where this kind of question comes from. But broadly, I think I'd agree with you. I don't think there is a significant change so long as we define instructional design as, as I tend to, kind of this role of identifying and defining business problems and performance deficits and ideating solutions to improve performance. That's kind of permanent. Why would that role change? Why would it go away?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope we maybe see it broadened, i.e. given access to more areas of the business and things like that. But the core job is kind of, what the kind of main instructional design tenets were defined during / really just after World War II. I don't think they've really changed all that much.
No.
Like they've been layered onto with storyline.
Of course.
Phrases like seat at the table. Perhaps by then, like we did away with like offices, maybe C-suites will do away with tables, so we'll have to pick up some other metaphor.
There you go.
Maybe it'll be like I don't have a perch on the boat or whatever. Depending on where people meet, maybe C-suites will just meet on super yachts as they get more and more wealthy and everyone else gets poorer. So there's the if you had anti-capitalist message on your bingo card for this episode, stamp. I think it's that surface level stuff that will change, right?
Yeah.
I should say as well, if you're sat there disagreeing with us, please do jump into the comments. And if you're watching the recording, let us know as well what you agree with, what you disagree with. So that was what we think instructional designers will be doing in 5 years' time. What tools are you using right now?
Right now? Now? No, just kidding. In my current instructional design project that I am working on, I am using Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, and ChatGPT, just a wee little bit only for graphic design mockups. because I'm not actually doing the graphic design myself, because I am not a graphic designer. And this particular team has them, which is lovely.
Ooh.
And so I am just like building the bones of this instructor-led training that's on financial readiness skills and is meant to be somewhat of a game.
Okay.
Played through by teams where they're making different scenarios. And so those are the tools. That's it. Those are the tools I'm using. Microsoft Office and a little bit of ChatGPT, but just for mock-ups for the graphic design team. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest, like, most of my kind of core work now is Notion. I use Notion a lot for documents, just so they're more easily searchable and cross-referenceable. Little bit of Google Drive, like Google Docs and Google Drive and all that kind of thing. Claude and ChatGPT, a little bit of Perplexity if I want to do research, but it's arguable as to whether or not that's really instructional design stuff. Like I do find that my tool set is getting smaller rather than bigger. I'm not sure if you've kind of had this over time. Is that not long ago I'd have had like a list of like many tools. Like, this is great and that's great and this is great. And now I actually find that, I don't know, in terms of actually getting stuff done, I use a very small number of tools. I suspect in this question there is a part of this which is like, and when you're actually making stuff, what do you find yourself using a lot? So what about when it comes to actually like creating a thing, what kind of tools do you find yourself using then, whether it's visuals or content or whatever?
Yeah, let's see. If it's visuals, obviously Canva, because like I just said, I'm not a graphic designer. And what do all non-graphic designers use but Canva? In terms of video, I'll usually use, like if I'm doing a explainer video, probably Camtasia would be my go-to, just for simplicity purposes, and because it's affordable. Let's see. There was one other one I wanted to mention, and it just like went away from. For my podcast, I always just used Audacity because it's free. So yeah, like those are pretty much the big kind of three that I will do multimedia with. What about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still in a kind of Adobe shop. We've always used Adobe Evolve.
Yeah, it's good.
Just because it's what we know. Like, you know, once you know it, it's very good, but it is wildly overpriced. We moved most of the video production over to DaVinci Resolve. There is an issue with there is an issue, by the way, with the play on LinkedIn. I have put a message on the LinkedIn event saying to come over to YouTube. There is, unfortunately, by what I can tell, very little I can do to make LinkedIn like accept the event we are streaming. It accepts that we are streaming to it, but it is not playing the event. So I'm afraid I have no, at least what I can tell, I have no fix for this, I'm afraid. I wish I did. I don't. Come and join us on YouTube, hopefully. I appreciate you can't hear us, but I have commented on the event. So if you're watching this, you were told. It's not my fault. But no, I'm not sure. We're having some kind of issue with LinkedIn, but I don't quite know what the issue is. There we are. I was going to say, join us here. There we go. Come over to YouTube.
Perfect.
Cool. So, so I'm doing that. In terms of content creation, that's kind of it. Like, I'm using Evolve and Chameleon for a little bit of e-learning work at the moment.
Nice.
They're both fine. And Lovable. Using Lovable a lot for kind of site development and small app development. Working with a lot of teams at the minute where like they need very small, very specific, quite niche things. And I'm finding kind of you could build it in an authoring tool, or you could build it in, you know, a tenth of the time, and it will be better than any authoring tool based experience in the end. To just build it from scratch now, because AI makes building it from scratch so quick and easy.
Nice.
So I shared some examples of e-learning in last week's user experience webinar, and both those examples were created, you know, from written a storyboard, but then literally dumped that into an AI development environment and went, this is an e-learning, I need to package this as SCORM, I need to do this, I want the following reporting out the back of it, blah blah blah, build it. And it just did everything. All the coding, all the design work, all the image selection. And all I did at the end was go, that image is a little bit not quite what I'm looking for. Could you find me an image with a guy in a hard hat climbing a ladder so it looks a little bit more like he's following the rules? Of course I can. Here's a new picture. Is that okay? Yeah, great, done. You know, we're talking about, 2 or 3 days of development in a storyline or Evolve or whatever, done in 30 minutes.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are trade-offs here.
Sure.
Like, for instance, you couldn't do that with proprietary information, because that proprietary information would now be everywhere, or at least everywhere inside an LLM. But
of course,
yeah, I do think it's a use case that I can only assume will grow. Let's put it that way.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's cool. I keep thinking about doing a video about it and being like, is that actually interesting? I'm not sure it is. It's just type it in and hit enter, and look, it builds it for you. Like, it's a cool thing to go like, look, ta-da! But is it a video? Probably not.
I don't know. I think it could be. I think it definitely could be, because I think it could. I think people don't know until they see something, right?
True.
I don't think they know that it's even available. Yeah.
Yes, it's true. Cool. Well, that's a great question. So, bit of a broad one. How can I make compliance training more engaging?
Sorry. Did I just laugh out loud? Well, oops, here we are live. This is a good question. And I think that the answer is not, well, the answer I'm going to give is not what everybody else is going to say. And I'm okay with that. Because I think to make compliance training more engaging, it needs to be useful, right? I know that's very on brand for me to say. However, the relevancy and being able to see how it can actually apply to you is what makes that an engaging experience. So let me use like information security as an example, right? Computers, like computer tech security. I recently took a information security course for a remote role, right? A remote teaching role. And it was talking about how you should not pick up USB drives, flash drives that you find out in the wild on a picnic table. That was the actual image that they had in the course, was do not go to the park and pick up the flash drive that you see on the picnic table at the park and then take it home and plug it into your computer to see what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
First of all, I would never. Second of all, I didn't know people still use flash drives. And third of all, like, shame on you. Shame on you, right? Because here's the thing. A lot of compliance courses are off the shelf. You can't really make them more engaging. There's nothing you can do. Sometimes you have to just understand that and work on the stuff that you can make more engaging. Funnel your time and energy there, right? Like, just if it comes off the shelf. If you're making it yourself, you need to figure out what the situations are. What are the most mission critical? Where did you lose money last year because somebody went to Giant Eagle and bought gift cards and thought it was the CEO talking to them, right? Like, what are the actual situations where you're at risk? in that compliance realm. And then how can you turn those into scenarios or learning experiences? The other thing that people struggle with is subject matter experts and stakeholders, putting too many parameters. And then like you get like, they want the whole SOP word for word legalese in the course because that covers their ass.
Yep.
Find a way to put that CYA document somewhere else or have it separated, right? Like, here's the entire document we want you to read through. Nobody's going to read through it, first of all. But if you just put it there, the subject matter expert will feel better, right? And then create scenarios around it that say, okay, this is totally separate from that. We're going to make them read the document. Don't worry. This is totally separate. This is this, right? When it comes to things like sexual harassment, one of the things that really bothers me that we don't think about with compliance training is how it's affecting our learners. And there are a lot of people who are triggered by different things that happen in those types of courses. So please, first of all, be mindful of that. But also, like, the scenarios are always like the most obscene, ridiculous, dramatic scenarios that you would run into, where most people aren't encountering that in the workplace. And if they are, they either know it's very wrong, or the people who are perpetrating don't give a shit about your e-learning. It's not going to change their creepy behavior, right? Talk about the situations that are more nuanced, like, I'm interested in my coworker. I want to ask them on a date. Should I do that or not? How should I approach that, right? Like, the scenarios that are real, where it's like, okay, you have to be careful how you talk to people. You have to be, like, talk to people, right? Stop thinking of it as compliance with a capital C. Otherwise, don't bother trying to make it engaging,
No, I haven't got a lot to add to that, to be honest. That relevance point, I thought, is just that's the thing. Like, I think often we confuse the term engaging with fun, or compliance training is what it is. It's there to protect the company's ass, but that's fine. That's okay. Like, that's important. And sometimes just doing the kind of, look, we've got to get through this, but don't worry, it won't take too long. Like I always say, the best kind of compliance training is compliance training that only takes 5 minutes. Just acknowledge the fact of, no one's excited about this. Not me, not you, not the business, not the people who wrote the law we're trying to be compliant with. So let's get it done. Let's get it out of the way. Let's focus on how it actually applies to you. So that's cool. The next question, unless you've got a particularly strong answer for it, I'd be quite happy to kind of, not being rude to the question asker, but kind of skip.
Okay.
What authoring tool should I learn first to get a job in L&D?
Oh, I have an answer for this, because I really want people to think about this. Okay. So that question, what authoring tool should I learn first to get a job in L&D? Now, Tom, I want you to picture, I go to my neighbor's house. Okay. And I go with 3 different wrenches. Okay. And I say to my neighbor, which wrench should I use for you to hire me as a plumber? Or I go to a car mechanic, right? There's a car mechanic down my street that has a help wanted sign on his door. That's why I thought of this. I go in there and I say, which wrench should I buy for you to hire me here? Could you imagine if I walked into that mechanic and said that? He'd be like, who the hell are you, lady? Get out of here. What are you doing, right? Because the tool is not the job. The tool is the tool, right? It's just like any other tool. It's like any other camera for a photographer. It's like a paintbrush for an artist. The best instructional designers don't need any tools, right? Like, I think it was Mark Shepard who once said to me, I'm a good instructional designer and all I need is a pen and paper, right? I can be a good instructional designer with just a pen and paper. So my challenge to that person that asked that question is to find out why you want a job in this field, because the tool has very little to do with what you'd actually be doing day to day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly it. So following on from that, is now a good time to become an instructional designer, or is it all just AI?
I'm gonna let you answer this one first this time.
I mean, if now is when you want to be an instructional designer, go do it. But I don't know. I don't want to. Like, the market's tough right now, but it's not better anywhere else. Like, right now, the market's tough if you're an electrician. It's tough if you're
Yeah.
a postman. It's tough if you're a policeman. It's just tough, basically. Is there a lot of AI around? Yes. Is it useful? Mostly no. Is it taking a bunch of instructional design jobs? Honestly, not that I've seen. And I've not seen any genuine threat, as it were. Like, if you are good at your job right now, I don't think there's anything to be worried about in the near term. If you're bad at your job, you are now much more likely to get found out. I would
Yes.
caveat that whole thing with that, because the floor has come up. The ceiling is now higher than it's ever been. We can do more than ever, but the minimum sort of standard is creeping up, which is only a good thing, just to be clear. But I have not yet, I don't think, met anyone who has lost their job to an AI in this space as an instructional designer.
In an instructional designer. Yeah, I have not either.
Yeah. So yeah, that
I know people who are like creating a lot more content whole scale using AI, but I think as somebody who uses like ChatGPT a lot, I pay for the premium account. And I use it for like a lot of my business stuff, like copywriting, right? And things like that. But then I also have had it try to like help me create things. And it's terrible, honestly. I found myself a few times going, yeah, I'm just going to do this myself, right? Like, it's good for like, help me with the organization and flow of this thing that I already created. Help me with suggestions on how to improve what I've already created, considering like the audience and, you know, and so it'll give me good feedback and like give me good iterations, but it's really bad at creating. And I think where we have a blind spot as instructional designers and where people are using this and they're going to be found out is when they don't have SMEs and they're just trusting this tool to create the content, right? Without realizing that they're not having an expert check it, because every time I've had my own expert eyes on what it comes up with, I go, this is terrible. And I probably shouldn't be trusting it for the other things. I'm trusting it for like marketing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult, right? I said earlier this year that like the whole, you know, getting a job thing is not something I try not to do a lot of advice on that, because it's not really my field. But yeah, my overriding feeling is like, it's a good time to become an instructional designer if you're serious about it, if you have a passion for it, if you're willing to work really hard, then yeah, basically the same as always. And with all jobs. And that's not to be flippant about the question. I'm sure it's a very genuinely asked question. It's more just a case of like, basically it's more up to you than it is anything else.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, it seems like these questions are caught like nothing against the people asking them, but I'm interested in what they're seeing that's causing them to ask this, right? Like, and I know the answer. I know that, you know, social media newsfeed on LinkedIn is making it sound like the dumpster fire, right? And I just think that, like, you know, Tom and I are here to say it's not that serious. Everybody calm down. And like, and the other thing is too, like, it is a good time to become an instructional designer if you understand that any career change takes a lot of effort and cannot be done in 6 weeks for $8,000 in a program or boot camp. Period. End of sentence.
This is it. But it can be done if you attend one of my Evolve. No.
Or if you hire me to consult for your. No, just kidding.
Oh dear. Moving swiftly on, my manager doesn't know much about learning or e-learning. So they always want my project delivered too quickly. What should I do to make them understand what they're asking isn't reasonable?
Oh, I'm going to answer this. And
Please.
I am going to challenge this person to imagine that it is reasonable and see what they could do on their end to speed up the process. Because what I have found is that probably 75% of the instructional designers that I've met are too slow. And it's not their fault. It's because they're getting hung up on silly things. And we have this tendency to brag about how much time we're wasting on LinkedIn as if it somehow makes it okay. Because I've literally seen people like, I just spent 30 minutes and it's always articulate products. Like, I'm just going to say that. Like, they're always in articulate products when they're wasting time. I just spent 30 minutes trying to get these colors right and trying to find the perfect picture, or it's AI. I'm trying to perfectly prompt AI to give me this exact photo that I want. And then I'm going, oh my God. And it's always people who have like the open to work banner, right? Who are like doing this for their portfolio. And I'm like, why would you just tell like every future hiring manager on the internet that you just wasted a bunch of time, right? So my challenge to this person would be, how can you speed up your process, right? Let's start there first. Is it the tools you're using? Because if you're using something that's slow and clunky and you're looking at, people keep bringing up the Chapman Alliance data. They say, well, it's supposed to take 140 hours to make 1 hour of e-learning because the Chapman Alliance data said so. The Chapman Alliance data is from 2010. We're not allowed to quote it anymore. No one's allowed to quote it anymore. And if you see them quoting it, tell me, tag me. I will take care of it. Please bring me into this conversation. But I think we can be faster. I think there are maybe some things that person can do to speed up their process. But I think where the ask is for the manager is asking for those tools that allow you to be faster, right? Is there something else you can do? Is there another method you can take? Is there another deliverable instead of just e-learning everything? Where, oh, hey, well, if we do, a 10-minute e-learning, but we have like a 45-minute workshop, I can get this turned around much faster, right?
Yeah. So I think kind of similar lines. I think one thing I'd really stress is there clearly needs to be a conversation, because if you're unhappy with them, I assure you they're unhappy with you. But these things always work both ways. I'm going to make some assumptions here because you're not here for a back and forth, so we kind of have to. It's the nature of this format, if you will. There will be a reason that they're asking you to move quicker. Just as you think there's a really good reason, and maybe there is a really good reason why you can't do the thing that you're trying to do quicker, there is probably, and there will be, a reason they want you to move at a certain pace as well. What there needed to be was a conversation earlier on saying, what's the scope? How long have we got? Is there a deadline? What are the pressures on this project? Because the only reason your manager is going to want something delivered in 3 days' time is because their manager or senior stakeholder or whatever has said, you've got to deliver it in 3 days' time. In fact, they were probably told to deliver it tomorrow, and they've argued the fight to get another couple of days for you to try and help is quite often the case. Not always. There are bad managers out there, but I'm going to assume that you haven't got one of those because they are fewer than I think the internet would suggest. So have that conversation, understand why, and then when you have that conversation, you're able to design something that fits within the scope of your project. This happens when you've got one idea of what the goal is and they've got a completely different idea, usually. Now, it could be your manager is an arsehole and just wants everything done tomorrow, has no appreciation for the effort and knowledge you have and blah, 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 blah. But I would suggest not starting with that assumption because there is no good end to that road. That road is you need to find a new job.
Yeah.
Which isn't helpful. So instead, talk about timelines more upfront and design to the time that's available, as opposed to the philosophically perfect. Same. It's like the SME arguments thing. Like, be creating the perfect solution is very rarely the right thing for us to do in our jobs. Our job is not to create perfect learning experiences. It's to deliver performance improvement within the confines of the business.
Yeah.
So, focus on that, and this kind of problem will be alleviated, I would suggest. What have we got? What have we got? Oh, that's an interesting and highly specific one. How can I use spaced repetition in the workplace? And this sounds really simple on the surface, and we all go, "Oh yeah, spaced repetition is very, very important." Da, 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 da. And then, how many times have you actually seen it successfully deployed in a workplace? And everyone goes, "Oh yeah." So Heidi, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, okay. I think it's, oh my gosh, this is like, so this is it's a very specific question, but it highly depends on your organization. So I think where I'll start is channels. Okay. You have to, and this is probably because I was just on a call with Hannah Clark talking about marketing for learning. So shout out to Hannah, but you have to know where people are, because there is not going to be an ideal situation where you're trying to make spaced repetition happen, where you're having people come back to the LMS over and over and over for that spaced repetition. Now, I'm going to give you an example of how I've seen it done really, really well, and then I'll explain more about the channels thing. So actually, oddly enough, it was the same people who did the bad flash drive e-learning. What they did do well was the spaced repetition after, where we would get actual spam emails that when we flagged them as spam, it said, hey, just so you know, this was a test and you passed it, right? This is like from the information security course. If you didn't, it said, hey, you failed this test that we just gave you, and please come back and do this, like like the module, the one module that you need to do to like refresh your memory. But you have to make that spaced repetition happen in the flow of work, right? So if your company is using like Slack and Teams, you've got to maybe you create a fake worker, right? Like an AI chatbot, fake employee, or you just make your own account and you do it yourself. And then like we talked about doing this in one of the organizations I worked at, where we were going to have like a fake new employee, and they were going to ask questions in Slack or Teams periodically of the people who had gone through the training, just to kind of see what they know, but pretending that they were like a clueless coworker, like, hey, I don't really know where to find these files. Can you help me with that? Or, hey, I've got this guy who wants to do XYZ, and I'm not really sure if that's something we should do. Like, what should I, but finding the places where things are happening. And then even like one of the places that I always bring up, because I learned so much traveling to like all the different NASA centers in the US, from the bathrooms. I learned so much about those centers from their bathrooms. Announcements are posted in the bathrooms. Important reminders are on the back of the stall doors. Like, think about where you can put these items for that spaced repetition, where people are going to stumble upon them and have no choice but to interact.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've kind of nailed it there. The biggest thing I would say is, like, don't be afraid to buy it in. Like, there are tons of tech solutions that will just roll out this stuff for you. That one of the biggest barriers to it is we barely have enough resource to deal with the day-to-day. How do we now do all this other stuff? That it is like the prime set of tasks, to my mind, for automation. In fact, automating it will not only be better for you, it will actually be better for the populace of the business as well, to know that it will be reliably delivered, because these systems quite often allow for personalization as well, in a way that, again, someone sitting there doing it will not be able to do. So you can really support people well with a technology solution there, and then lean into what we know is a good idea. We've only got a few minutes left, and so we haven't got through all the questions. But this last one, I found, I don't know, a little bit accusatory, as well as an interesting question. It might just be the wording and my general focus on reading things in a bit of a tone. You often talk about pseudoscience or junk science in your posts and videos. This was in response to a Substack article I published. Um, how do we and you know the difference between that and real science you just don't understand? Interesting one, this. You're probably better equipped to answer this than me, Heidi. But do you want to start and then I'll share some thoughts?
Yes, I am better equipped. Hi, I'm Dr. Heidi Kirby, and I not only have a doctorate and have had to do, oh God, awful statistics courses on research and understanding the difference between good research and bad research. But in my former life, I also was an information literacy professor. So I taught people how to determine whether what they found on the internet was true or not. There is an article on the getusefulstuff.com website where I talk about how to read scholarly journal articles and like make it so that you can tell whether they have good data and information or not. I mean, I think that the way that I do it is I just kind of like Google it and research it and then go down the rabbit hole and see what I can find. And if it's an actual study, I look at the methods, I look at the sample size, I look at what they're claiming. Right. I recently read some research that was like very small sample size. And like the claims were like, well, it's close to this. Right. And like, I'm like, that's not like just the wording that was used is not how we generally describe things. Right. I think what you would probably say too is like anytime you see a pyramid, be skeptical. But really, like, I think being open to having dialogue around it is really important too. Because the times that I've tried to gently point out, like, hey, this has been debunked, or hey, this is like problematic, people get really defensive and they get really, really, opinionated about it. So being open to the idea that maybe what you believed in isn't true, like I was once about learning styles. And, I think just like looking at information on both sides and then determining which you think sounds more legitimate.
Yeah, so I have none of the accolades or qualifications just mentioned. What I do make a deliberate point of, though, is surrounding surrounding myself with smart people. People like Heidi, people like Karen North, Clark Quinn, Matt Reacher, people who know their shit, basically. People who I know I can go to if I need to and go, is this bollocks? It smells like bullshit to me. That is invaluable. And what over time will happen is you will learn what they're looking for. Or, like Heidi said, someone will write an article telling you exactly what they're looking for. And you can read that and learn from it and apply it. And then you can get it wrong and learn the hard way. And then over time, you learn to apply it like any other skill. That said, we'll all get blindsided by something. I'm confident that a solid 50% of what I think I know today, in 10 years' time, will be proven to be nonsense. That's how science works. That's kind of the exciting thing about working in a field where we have some sciencey bits attached to what we're doing and it informs a lot of what we're doing, but very few of us are scientists. And so we will, when science discovers something new or changes its mind as it is designed to do, we will have to change how we work. And to me, that's quite an exciting promise of like, we don't stand still because the science doesn't stand still. And as our understanding improves, our practice can improve over time. The biggest thing is that willingness to go, well, I was wrong, moving on. Like, that is the most important thing, I think, anyway. And when you do read into something, go in with the question of what is the truth, as opposed to, am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah.
But, because the minute you're right or wrong, guess which one we all want to be? Like, it's just human, right? Yeah. Whereas if you go in looking to better understand a topic, when you go in thinking what's the truth, when you go in saying what does the research say about you will have a much more interesting and enjoyable experience learning this stuff. But yeah, it's not easy. I still regularly, when I'm researching for my articles, discover stuff that I deeply wish wasn't true. Like, I
Yeah.
deeply wish learning just broadly in the workplace improved performance. There's
Yeah.
no evidence to suggest that it does, so we can't really
Nope.
say it. It's, sometimes that's how this goes, and you've just got to be comfortable with that. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope that's a good answer. I'm going to say it's a good answer. It's our answer, and that's what you're getting. But that does bring us to the end, incredibly, of an hour. No, it doesn't. We started 15 minutes past.
We did start. That's why it seems so. Yeah.
This is you see. Sometimes, even with the best of intentions, I have left myself to post-it note say, "Remember, you started at 15 minutes." But no, that made no difference.
I mean, I thought you were just going to cut us off earlier. I was like, all right, okay. Now you have to listen to us answer 2 more questions at least.
Well, I kind of pulled what I thought was the best question because I thought it was going to be our last one. Let's dive back into some of the other questions. I have applied. We're back into the world of jobs. I have applied for 100+ jobs and have only heard back from a few. What can I do to stand out? Do you mind if I jump in on this one first?
Yeah, please.
Stop applying for so many jobs. Be more picky. Target your applications and focus on what you want to do. There is no. I'm gonna make an assumption here and say this is an L&D job. It is very unlikely you are very well suited to 100 or more jobs. Like, at any given time, like I'm pretty confident in my skill set. I think there would probably be 20 to 25 jobs at any given time that I would consider applying for. And even then, probably fewer if I'm honest. If I was to really, really challenge myself on, not only am I interested in the job, but do I think I am well suited to that organization, that position, that everything else they've given. So I would humbly suggest fewer applications, more time spent per application, and making sure that you're really good. And that's really dull to say, but it's like, how do you stand out in the current market? Be great. Be undeniably good at what you are applying to do and be demonstrating that. And that doesn't mean fancy portfolio, but it does mean effective portfolio.
Yes.
It does mean an effective CV. Do not be applying for jobs with a portfolio only and no CV. And don't be wasting time on LinkedIn asking influency types what you should be doing about getting a job, because they don't, it's just always my hesitancy around this, but this one I feel somewhat safe saying this is like, equally throw all this advice away and do whatever the heck you want, because my approach to getting a job back when I worked in-house was see a job that I like, send my CV and hope for the best. So that is the top quality advice from Tom. Apply for fewer jobs and you'll probably get one. That's all I got. Heidi, better advice from you.
I think no, I don't think it's better advice, but I think to stand out, and I have no idea what this person has done, right? I have no idea what their resume looks like, but I know what I've seen a lot of lately on LinkedIn. And coming from the perspective of being a hiring manager in the past and hiring multiple IDs, and I'm sure you can attest to this too, Tom, like, first of all, I'm seeing a lot of resumes that aren't resumes out there. They're like something created in Canva that's very like visually sexy, but it doesn't have any substance, right? Like, you talk about maybe the types of roles you're going for and you list 4 or 5 of them. You talk about the types of companies that you want to work for. You might have, like the certifications, the LinkedIn learning courses that you took. Get rid of all that shit. Get rid of all that. That doesn't tell me anything as a hiring manager about you and your ability to perform this job. As a hiring manager, when I am looking at your resume, I want to know, can you do this job? Can you get up to speed fast? Can you be ready to work quickly? And do you know what you need to know to actually, do the job, right? So if you're like listening to these career people who are saying like, you know, oh, apply to the jobs even if you only have 50% of the qualifications because like they might consider you anyway. Like, yes, that is true if they have no other applicants. But guess what? That's not the economy that we're living in right now. And people have, like, recruiters have their choice of candidates. So unless you really meet those requirements and unless you are doing visible, real things to improve your skills, it doesn't surprise me that people are kind of spinning their wheels, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's good advice. Certainly more cohesive advice than my waffle, anyway. We've got a question from the chat about video scripting.
It's live. We have to answer it.
I know, right? This is it. What elements have you found in I should have started that. Video scripting is my kryptonite. Sorry to hear that. I love scripting videos, so hopefully we can help with this. It's like one of those jobs I quite look forward to. What elements have you found in memorable videos that stand out?
Take it, Tom.
Oh, cool. I'll go first. Cool. So, really old school video advice: hook, introduction, main content. Spin many cycles of that. End in a summary. Like it sounds almost trite because it's such basic advice, but I think the reason, because you're not alone. Like whenever I try, a big part of what Evolve does, we train L&D teams. We do a whole thing on media production. Loads of people struggle with this, but the very basics of whether you're writing a 1 minute instructional video, a little explainer type thing, or whether you're writing the next sort of blockbuster movie type thing, all video follows a real basic structure of a hook, something to grab attention and pull people in, and then an introduction, some scene settings, some world building, some basic understanding building, a main content piece, i.e., a story beat or a scene, and then you hook into the next one. How do I keep people's attention? You hook in, and you spin this as many times as you want to, and you finish the film, video, whatever, podcast with a little summary piece, and bringing it all together. They lived happily ever after, and now you've safely used a ladder, or whatever it might be. And see, that USB stick didn't hurt anyone, and it runs off because it's a USB stick in the wild. And whenever someone says that, I just see little USB sticks with legs and fur on them running around outside. It makes me very happy, but unfortunately isn't like you say, real. Keep it really simple. And the other thing, and this everyone responds to this differently, is voice type it. Don't try and sit at a computer and write a video. That is trying to slam together two different formats of communication. Video is audio and visuals. You may not have the visuals at this stage, but the biggest reason I think for video scripts not working is because you're writing for one medium, written communication, and then converting it with no change to someone saying it in a voiceover or two people saying it back. Like, written dialogue is not the same as spoken dialogue. The same reason if you look at written dialogue in like written stories from sort of the time of Shakespeare, it looks nothing like Shakespearean English, because even then Shakespeare was like, I am writing for two people to say this to each other on a stage to entertain an audience, not for someone to read it on a page and follow the story. The two forms of the same language need to be very different. And voice typing for me, I mean, I voice type all the time anyway because I'm dyslexic, but specifically for writing videos, when we introduce that in a lot of our training sessions, you can see people have this moment of like, oh God, that fixes the problem. But that's it, right there. And then there's no conversion difficulty later on. It also really helps because then if you have got a voiceover artist, they've got a guide track to follow. They can understand what you're wanting to achieve, even if you yourself aren't a voice actor. And if you want good software for doing that, I would highly recommend. Oh God, what do I use? Why can I not remember? Whisperflow. Um, Whisper Flow is fantastic. It can voice type into itself, but can also voice type into anything you can put the cursor into. Um, and you can just like bind it to a key on your keyboard. So I just hit one button, it starts voice typing, hit it, and it dumps the text into wherever I am. So whether I'm writing a script or writing a LinkedIn post or an article or an LLM prompt, I can voice type, which is great. And the free one gives you tons of free usage, and they have, if you use it lots, you can switch up to a paid version. But it's it's very, I reckon it's very good. Sorry, I've gone on for quite a while there. Heidi,
I have very little to add to that. I have very little to add to that, other than like, reading, storytelling, fiction writing, books, or watching videos. Books are just my default. Sorry. That come from outside of L&D, right? Like how to tell a good story. I shared a link to in the YouTube for Nicole Papianu-Ligara's LinkedIn. She does both L&D, but also writing. Like she has a PhD in English. She's going to come into my community next month for our all access members and do a dialogue writing workshop specifically for like scenario dialogue writing, this type of thing, like video scripting and things like that. So
very cool. Exciting stuff. Well, thank you for sharing that live question. Hopefully those answers help. We are now actually coming right up to the end. So the real end, not the
real end. It
was just a trick last time to see how committed anyone was to getting to the real end of the video, and how confused people will be on the replay that I'm wrapping up the video with like 15 minutes left on the player. I was like, what the hell's going on?
First, you can't get to us on LinkedIn. Then he can't get to us this way. We're just messing with you the whole time, but we have the intro, so it doesn't matter.
Who cares, right? There's an intro. This is it. Amazing. Well, I thought we'd kind of finish off with, for the month ahead. Heidi, what have you got coming up in the month ahead, and what can people get involved with?
Oh, wow. So as always, like I just mentioned, we have, I have started, let me back up. Whoa, zoom out. Last year I started the Useful L&D community. And we've recently started a paid tier for $7 a month that allows you to go to 2 live events, where it's literally just me picking the cool people that I want to come speak at these events and then having them come speak. And like I said, Nicole's going to come do a dialogue writing session. And then the brilliant Mark Shepard is going to come do a session on freelancing. So I'm super excited about both of those events. And then also my child is going back to school. So I haven't really thought of anything else other than that. So I don't have much else to give. Tom, what about you? I know you've got webinars.
Yeah, so we got our fortnightly webinars going on at Evolve, which is super exciting. On Monday as well, and I am excited about this, our CPD Evolved platform will go live with our first publicly available course. It's very exciting.
Nice.
I say it will go live. I am fighting an authentication issue. It should have been live today, but we're gonna sort that out over the weekend, and it's going to be live on Monday. And the first one actually follows on from our very first webinar, which is Better by Design, which is an 8-week course on user experience principles into e-learning design. It's really, really great. And so yeah, I'm excited to launch it, because it's not an e-learning course. It's not all digital. It is come along to live sessions, get one-to-one coaching and support, build stuff, work on your own content, not some bullshit like make-believe topic, like how to pet puppies and 10 easy steps or anything. The whole point is that you bring your real work with you and we help you make it better. So it's very much looking forward to seeing people there. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hard to believe we are at the end of July already. So we will see you again at the end of August, which is practically the end of summer at that point.
Right, I know.
Which is seriously scary. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching us in the clips. Please do let us know in the comments what you thought of our answers. And if you've got more questions you would like us to answer in the future, it'd be great to do another one of these episodes, because there's bound to be another month without any news. So Heidi, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us live, and we will see you all next month. Well, that's awkward. The button's not working. Give me a moment.